Friends and folks, welcome to the Kaiju Lounge, your home for humor, opinions, and nerd shit. My guest tonight is one of the founders and brains behind Tokyo Bronx ACG Mixer. Whether it's car races, tea ceremonies, anime karaoke, or any of the various cons in the New York City area, her team will have a hand in it somehow. Hell, you can't even read a copy of Spy Family without her team showing up in a 5-block radius. And I've been lucky enough to run into her multiple times in my various con journeys. Take a look. Talk to me about what you've got going on here today.
Oh my God. So we are at Cosplay Central in the River Pavilion, and we are doing our ACG Lounge on the road. We did Andy Tomo, but this is like the Redux version. And
this is the update. I mean, not to say there's anything wrong with Andy Tomo, but obviously when the big money are in the Javits Center, it's a bit of a different experience, right?
Yeah, they're more like, go big or go home, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we are actually, each day we're doing something different just to showcase our community, what our mission and vision is, and we're bringing some featured artists in our network. We're doing a number of activities here just to showcase our cross-cultural engagement and our experience that just what Tokyo Bronx is about.
Please welcome to the show, Rosa Vasquez. Rosa, how are you doing? Finally, we have you on.
Hi, how's everybody doing? Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. It is, we are doing this on Halloween.
Yes.
We probably won't post it. We'll feel out of date by the time it gets live, but I will say, you got your onesie on. Yes. I'm rocking the leisure suit Bowser, which makes it very difficult to lie backwards on this chair because I'm just gonna crush it. So I got to be on the edge of my seat, which I am absolutely on the edge of my seat for this interview. That's a segue. Rosa, before we get into all the nitty gritty, last time I saw you wasn't that long ago at New York Comic Con. I ran into you on Thursday and Friday. There was a whole extra 2 days that were even crazier. How was the rest of your con?
Oh my goodness. I would say I needed, a few days to recover. It's like what they call it, the con crash, the con hangover. That feeling, yes. Oh, yeah. It's so real, believe me. And, it was exciting and tiring, but all that is like what they call it, overwhelming success. That's how it feels.
That's great. That's great. So you guys had, I alluded to a little bit of this here already. Mm-hmm. Thursday, you're doing the tea ceremony. Friday, you had something different at the ACG Lounge every single day. Can you tell the audience, like, first what you had at the lounge, and then we're going to roll backwards into what is Tokyo Bronx ACG and what is the ACG Lounge. So go for it.
Yeah. So we wanted to make the lounge a very interactive and immersive experience. So my idea was like not make it the same thing. So it's like a mini event within a big event kind of experience. So it really emphasized the ACG social mixer aspect that we did for the past 5-6 years and how we started, and just really bringing people together, fans, creators in that network. And we always had different themes every time when we do these ACG social mixer events. That's always the premise of it. So each day was something different. We had interactive mural with different featured artists. So I'm grateful for them for showing up as well. And, just bringing people to the table with their own style of art and how they want to immerse and interact with everybody. Aside from that, we also had a promo booth. So we had partnered with other people in our network that wanted to just, promote their events and sort of say, like, we'll be part of that as well. So it's a nice little way to bring in that free promotion. Why not? And then, And then we also had our lounge area. So that was like a nice area we set up for people to sit and relax, especially, our whole idea with ACG Social Mixer is to feel those small connections, like that 6 degrees of separation kind of feeling, and but chill and relax. And, creating that lounge setup and each day was something different was awesome. So we had we had like nice fun game activities, sort of like, I don't want to say like college frat parties or sororities, which it wasn't. It was just more of like, why don't we take...
But y'all did throw in beer pong. Y'all did throw in or pong. We'll just call it pong, for the kids.
Yes. I was telling people we have beer pong, but without the beer. Sorry, just because they were here and they were like, sorry, but no beer. But they had fun. They were playing it. We also had, like I said, you mentioned the tea ceremony, which was amazing. We had Brooklyn Kimono come through and do a
That's great.
gracious educational experience when it came to the tea ceremony. So a lot of people came like, "Wow, I've never heard of it." They were like, "What's a Japanese tea ceremony?" And to give that little quick experience for them, they were surprised and really very. I guess they said, "Oh, I feel so zen." So they were like feeling that experience. I guess from having, I don't know, a little quick sip of green tea and just the tea
Yeah.
master. Tea was
And I'm
amazing.
sure amongst all that chaos at even where you guys were
Yes.
upstairs, like amongst all that chaos,
Mm-hmm.
that little bit of respite, that little bit of like of
Mm-hmm.
zen in life is needed because the rest of Comic-Con was
Yes.
so fucking overwhelming.
Yes. Trust me, I did not go downstairs for that entire reason. I was like trying to avoid because I know how chaotic. I did go late. I always try to get there earlier than God, like to get there earlier
Yeah.
enough so I could check things out. And then if
Do
I
a
went
quick lap
later,
and
yeah,
then
so
find your
that's it.
spot.
Then come back upstairs. Yeah. So we did the
Yeah.
tea ceremony Friday, Saturday. Um, what did we do? Oh, we had the ping pong. So we had a ping pong tournament. So we just makeshift like a
Wow.
one of the tables, did a little quick ping pong tournament. That was exciting. And then Sunday we just had people come and play bingo. Like it was just and you'd be surprised people are like, wait, bingo's going on here? And it was just something, something chill and relax on a Sunday. You just want to relax and just which ended up being the
That's
longest bingo game in history, it felt like. But no, it was all fun. It was awesome. And I'm gracious to everyone, the staff and volunteers that came through. And they've been with me on this ride for these past 5, 6 years. So I was so thankful that they wanted to just come and show their support at the booth.
that's great. That's great. So let's dive in. 'Cause I'm going to be fully
Yes.
honest with you here. When
Mhm.
I first decided, back when I was still a measly WWE employee and not, the monster you see before you today, and I was building out what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to do this interview stuff. Who is
Mhm.
out there in the local community? Who is out there in the New York City scene? And before I even knew you and the people behind it, I knew I had to have Tokyo Bronx ACG on this channel in some way because again, you guys, I see you everywhere.
Mhm.
For the people who don't know, for the people who see the name and maybe are a little bit confused, what is Tokyo Bronx ACG?
So Tokyo Bronx ACG is actually a cross-cultural social mixer experience. So
Hmm.
we bring local fans and creatives together in at the love and creation of anime, comics, and games. So it's a network in a nutshell, and it's just finding like your community, and that's how it started. It was like it started with the idea of talking to friends and saying how overwhelmed they were going to conventions and not able to like find those people they could connect with, even creatives, and just so finding like, hey, I love this hobby. I love anime, comics, and games. I love networking, collaborating people. So why not create something of this social mixer experience? And since then, it's grown, and we branched out of the Bronx to other areas and internationally as well. When we did our first international convention, Puerto Rico Comic Con, and it's been a wild ride. It's been even things that I didn't expect that could be in a network, like the whole car scene. I was like, okay, we could give this a try and see how we could
Yeah.
partner together with that. And but you'd be surprised, like there's anime, comic, gaming fans, and all these things, all anything you could think of, they're there.
Nerds are everywhere, and I say that with all the love in the world.
Yep.
Like absolutely, we
Yes.
we we permeate the zeitgeist. No, I mean, look,
Yes.
that I will say that speaks close to me as somebody who spends a lot of time with an outward appearance of being incredibly outgoing, but deep down is also shy. And I go to these cons, I film stuff because that is my way of breaking through.
Hmm.
I am not great if I just show up at the place. I find it, even some of the small ones, I find overwhelming. I feel like I'm an outsider stepping in, and having something like
Hmm.
that, I do think, is important for everyone. Absolutely.
Hmm. Hmm.
I wanna dive one step deeper in that,
Yeah.
and this, you let me know. I'm not asking for financials and everything, but what is the business model of this?
Hmm.
Maybe because I'm 40 and now this is the kind of stuff I think about as I try to figure out how to support my own family. But what
Hmm.
is
Of
the
course.
business model that, because
Hmm.
you guys show up, you're at these cons, you have a booth, you put on these events, you've worked with such great
Hmm.
organizations like Annie Tomo, Kaiju Brooklyn. Look, getting a spot at New York City Comic Con is no easy, or dare I say cheap feat, because Lord knows they're
Hmm.
charging $10 for a hot dog. Like, I can't only imagine what they're charging
Yes.
for a table. let's go a little bit
Yes.
deeper in what is
Hmm.
the business model that kind of helps support you guys be
Hmm.
able to do these amazing things.
Yeah, I always see it as there's small income and then there's large income. And then there's
Right.
also, aside from that, there's the opportunities to collaborate.
Mhm.
Collaboration is key. It's one of those things that people feel like scared to do or wondering like, what's in it for me? Like there's still that taboo about it when you hear the word collaboration, and
Yeah.
rightfully so, because in artist scene and industry, people have been used and abused from doing collaborations. But I think it's
Well,
building
it's
that bridge and
and I
that
would
trust.
argue
Yeah.
in a business sense too. It's like, typically companies in the largest sense of the word don't want to. They view that as having to share profits or share market
Yep.
space. And I think the
Hmm.
age of internet influencer culture has changed that, because that's the one place where
Hmm.
I see collaborations a little more quid pro quo, or a little rising tide raises all
Yes.
ships. It's cool to
Hmm.
see businesses starting to kind of pick up and see that's actually something that people engage with. But continue. I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, of course, definitely. And I feel it's like really divvying up like what things can we contribute to on a small scale income, large scale income, and also like collaborate as well. Like, don't get me wrong, like a lot of this stuff comes from my funds. It comes from like funds of like fundraising.
You're right.
And, we also pick and choose which is the right, I think that as a business sense too, is like, is this going to be something, whether it's monetary profitable or is it time and effort profitable, like, in the long run, like you mentioned, like content creators, they do boom and like their followers, and then that leads into other types of collaborations and monetization in any way, shape, or form with that. But I think for me, it's like with New York Comic Con, it was just, you know, being there, doing the opportunity of their partnership application. And,
Hmm.
as all these big conventions and any big business, they have to give back to certain community organizations. So I was gracious enough to be accepted for that partner application. So,
That's
because,
awesome.
yeah, no, no way in hell I'm paying.
No,
I
yeah,
can afford like no
yeah.
booth at New York Comic. I'll be like, thanks, but no
No,
thanks.
totally, totally. But yeah, I mean, you guys have a mission, you have a message, and you are part of the community, and there are the people who are doing the for-profit stuff, but then there are people like you who are simply trying to kind of like raise awareness and bring people together, and I'm sure benefits New York Comic Con from not trying to gatekeep those people from being
Yes.
involved.
Definitely. And I've seen they've learned as they grow, because a few years ago they used to have a community lounge, and then they changed, they took that out, and now they converted it to what we saw this past New York Comic Con. I think it was great just to bring in not only the cosplayers, they could come and promote themselves. You have community organizations like myself, like next to them as well, and then you also had other brands as well, like they all next to each other. So it didn't feel like it was segregated. Like
Yeah.
a few years ago, it just felt like it was all far away, which it was literally like at the end of the River Pavilion. So this time they did a great job, I guess, listening to the feedback and letting people know, like, hey, how can we still, like we still need to get people to Pavilion, but at the same time, it was much better coordinated this time around.
No, and I think it's you talked about having that like central location, though, specifically with the ACG Mixer, of having the lounge idea, right?
Yes.
Having like that home base for
Mm-hmm.
people. And as you're talking about that, I was just kind of thinking like this is something
Yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
larger
Yeah.
festivals do, that like fairs, I think, like the Ren Fair, for instance, people can set up a home base and walk the floor once or twice. But really, I think what people truly want these things is places like a central hangout spot where they can just like chill for 3-4 hours, and then go out to this
Yes.
panel or this event or this thing, and then come back,
Yeah,
instead of
we
feeling
definitely
like the
got that
only
too.
option is
Yeah.
being on your feet or hanging out,
Yes.
by the gorilla downstairs, waiting for something to happen. Like it helps to have a central location. I think that's actually, I think more cons and maybe more companies attending cons could benefit from that kind of offering that kind of environment to people, so that I don't feel like I'm
They-
spending money for 4 days to have to stand, walk, and eventually be absolutely exhausted.
No, exactly. I think having this idea and expanding it like to what it is and seeing it is was a great opportunity that New York Comic Con gave us. And it did start out in other conventions and other events, and it's just, we learn from there. We'd be like, okay, what worked, what didn't work,
Right.
what keeps people engaged, what keeps people staying there, what keeps people coming back. So those are same thing like a business model. Like those are things that we take as well when we keep expanding the lounge and just the social mixer realm.
That's great. That's great. Let's pop into the beginning because before it was Tokyo Bronx ACG, it was Tokyo Bronx and ACG Mixer.
Yes.
Let's talk about what these two organizations were doing separately because you were on the ACG Mixer side and you connected with Tokyo
Yes.
Bronx, right? So, like, what were you both
Yep.
doing separately, and how did this partnership and for lack of a better term, the merger came to be?
Yes. Yes. So I was doing my ACG social mixers back in 2019, and it was the whole emphasis of just my background in education and collaboration, bringing together communities. And so I was doing that in small cafes and bars in the Bronx, and also we did an art gallery in Manhattan. This was back, I guess I say back then, but it feels like before COVID, it was easier to get locations like on the
Oh,
spot, easy,
I'm
like, yeah,
sure.
you know.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
So yeah, so I did those, social mixers, collaborated with a couple of the other partnerships, and it was a surprise to know like how many people like they had their niche communities in Brooklyn and Queens and throughout the city, and that they were wanting to do similar visions, mission and vision. So being like, hey, why don't we partner together and create something exciting for like, with the social mixer spin to it. So our first three events for that year was an interview segment. So sort of like, and also how to do cosplay on a budget. So that was like our first event at Gun Hill Tavern when it was down in Mount Haven in the
Yeah,
Bronx.
yeah.
Then our second event, yeah. Then our second event was at the Boogie Down Grind Cafe. So that was a more of a like get to know artists or creatives kind of series. So we asked them, inspiration kind of questions, and then that was at that cafe. And then the third one was actually Halloween. Like this, it was a Halloween drink and draw. So we had some cosplayers who now, like I saw them. It's so funny. I saw one of them at New York Comic Con this year, and she's got like thousands, 10,000s and thousands of
Hell
followers. And when we
yeah.
first started, she was, small. So I was like, oh wow. So, you know, we were talking about that this past New York Comic Con, like about that drink and draw we did in the Halloween special little art gallery we did was great. So then COVID hit, and I was talking to one of the creators, which is C1 Comics. So C1 Comics is a comic collective. So it's a bunch of artists who come together and they do their own collection of storyboard writing, illustrations, publishing as well in
Okay.
the comic realm. So I was speaking to I had an interview series online, like it was a digital interview series during COVID, of course. So everyone's quarantined,
Naturally.
but I also felt like yes, I still wanted to bring the ACG social mixer to people as well. So I said, why not do the show and tell series? So everyone was home. They had no reason like to say no. And when we went in front of the camera, we talked for an hour, and it was when Instagram TV was around, and
Yeah.
they talked for like half an hour about themselves, and in half an hour they show and tell something. It was like maybe creating a cosplay or showing their videography or showing a little cupcake making session. So it was all varied on the type of creative that it was. So then one of the creators, which is C1 Comics, they had their own brand called Tokyo Bronx, and they were talking to me about it. Oh, what is Tokyo Bronx? And so we were sitting there talking at, quote unquote table, which was a quarantine table. And we were sitting there talking, and they told me what their mission and vision of Tokyo Bronx was. Of course, bringing that urban lens and cross cultural
Right.
experience, which was similar to mine, but they had more of like this urban spin to it, of like bringing that idea that anime is alive and active in
Right.
our
It
neighborhood,
was
like
the
especially in the
culture. It was the
Bronx.
culture
Growing
of
up,
New York,
yes,
really, because there is especially
yeah,
as a born and bred Californian who I moved out here when I was eight in
hmm
1920. So I've lived half
hmm
my life here, really, but like still, it's
hmm
there is culture shock no matter where in the world you come from.
yes,
You're New Yorkers when
hmm
you see them, right? There's a culture to being New York, and yeah,
yes,
so I totally get it.
yeah. So it was just one of those things that they were just, I guess, they had the idea. They were figuring out, like, okay, what do we do? We have Tokyo Bronx. We know we have the name. We were a group of artists So I told them, hey, I have this social mixer series. Why don't I affiliate with you? And we bring that idea of Tokyo Bronx, we bring the idea of ACG social mixer together, and we go from there. Like my goal, like for example, like I said, next year I had my 5 year goal. From that point when I talked to them, I was like, this is my 5 year goal. We're gonna make Tokyo Bronx a name. We're gonna branch it out so Tokyo Bronx has many different it's an umbrella and has many different entities under it. So ACG Social Mixer is just one service and entity under it. We have many others coming next
Oh,
year.
really?
And then yeah, and then next year, we have our cross-cultural trip is to Japan. So fingers crossed is like definitely have to talk to the right people, make those connections work, because you're going to a whole different realm of like art and culture. And,
Yeah.
there is an appreciation over there for like the type of style we do. So it's just making that come to fruition. And the rest is history, if you follow our journey, you see how much we've expanded.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm curious your take on this because, I think there is a reverence
Hmm.
from both sides, from both like the New York side
Hmm.
and the Tokyo side, two of the biggest cities in the
Yes.
world with an amalgamation, with love for each other's
Yes.
cultures, but also two very different cultures. Now, I want to say this that
Hmm.
I recognize I'm speaking in broad terms to the point of stereotype. So bear with me here as I check my own privilege as I say this. But I look
Okay.
at New York classically being very bombastic, very boisterous, very outgoing. New York is a
Hmm.
loud city, and this is all aspects from, the guy from the Jewish delis all the way down to the birth of hip hop all the way at the top. Right, New York has always been
Yes.
bombastic and outgoing. On the flip side,
Yeah,
mm,
you'd be surprised how Japan looks at if you look at like 80s, 90s animes and you see how they portray, I guess, the Bronx or how they portray New York City. It's a little wild, but actually, that
there's
sounds funny and stuff when
right,
you look at
yeah. I mean,
that.
look, the '80s was kind of a weird time of both cultural acceptance as well as probably bad
Hmm.
representation for everyone across the
Yeah.
board. Um, but I want to say, so I want to like contrast that with Japanese culture, which is admittedly very,
Hmm.
very quiet, very reserved. Again, I'm speaking generalizations, but a lot of Japanese people I've talked to when I try to bring this conversation up is like, they recognize that they are more of a withdrawn internal culture. Doesn't mean they don't
Hmm.
have fun. Doesn't mean they don't love this stuff. But like,
Hmm.
I will say the difference. I coming from the wrestling world, the difference between Japanese and American wrestling. Oftentimes, Japanese wrestling, the
Hmm.
audiences will like clap in admiration, but you don't hear the hooting and hollering you do in American wrestling. Um, Given
Yes.
those kind of vast extremes, let's call them, what do you think
Hmm.
is the appeal for both sides in this towards each other?
Hmm.
Uh, like why do you think that this is this weird like odd couple mesh that in the end both sides
Hmm.
absolutely like adore and hold reverence to each other?
Hmm. It's almost like one of those things, like if you know about subcultures, this is my anthropology degree
Let's
coming in
this is
right
the stuff I
now.
live for. Let's go. Let's go.
um, yeah, if you go back to like subcultures, you realize that there's always this thing of like we have to like break away from society's chains, right? Like what society portrays as
Hmm.
us. And I think with Japan as well, it's like they have like this subculture for like just the what we bring from New York City, from like let's say like the Bronx background with the urban hip hop and and then even the fashion sense as
Hmm.
well. Like I've seen images and videos and friends that have traveled over there and they'll find like these little niche subculture
Oh
outlets.
yeah.
And this is back then, they were there secretly, but now I feel the internet, thanks to the internet, thanks to like just the way globalization has happened in our century. It's expanded to even this whole migration, like it's even more cross cultural than ever before. And I think it's happening at such a fast pace, more than it's been in the past century in some ways. And it's just the love of like, you know, what this culture has brought to everyone, like this whole like coming out of their shell. And like if you think, and I know from like working, I've worked for Asian copies as well, and it's like like I remember first going into the office and it was super quiet. You could hear a pin drop, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so different from like, I came from the public sector and nonprofit
Right.
sector in New York
It's
City.
busy. It's
So it was
moving.
like, wow, loud. Yeah. So going there, I was like, wow, I see how it is. And then, always I wonder, I'm like, what do you guys do after, And well, they do have their fun, they definitely
Oh yeah.
do. So it's definitely like that differences in like work hard and then there's the play hard part. So you see both of those things.
Totally, totally. And again, I think, we have, I think in the end, I bring up these sort of like differences in cultural approach, but in the end, by being in two major cities and all of us having to live on top of each other in a very small condensed island,
Mm-hmm.
like, that we have a lot
Mm-hmm.
in common here. So you
Yes,
you've talked
definitely.
about this idea
Mm-hmm.
of going to a Tokyo. Where are we on this sort of like cross cultural excursion at this point now? Is this still, are
Mm-hmm.
there is there movement happening, or are we still, at the beginning stages of all this?
Right now it's in red. Yes, definitely the beginning
Of course.
stages. Because the way, like you mentioned, the Japanese culture is at a much slower pace and it's more formal. So it's building those connections, and it's knowing like who are the right people to talk to, and also who understand like this whole cross cultural influence and this whole cross cultural engagement and what it could bring. Because I've heard stories of like what we have over there is very liked, and but then if they come over here with the traditional art, art is more liked over here. So it's understanding like how opposite, like you mentioned, the opposites attract,
Yeah.
and just keep flaunting that, letting them know like I'm not bringing like Japanese culture to you because you have that already. Duh, I'm bringing like a mix and a spin of like how much we appreciate and the inspiration behind our art, behind our mission, our vision,
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
the
I'll say that,
culture, the pop
you know,
culture.
eh, when I talked to you a little bit about this when we were in person. We didn't talk about this on camera, but like, I just come back from Japan. I did the Kaiju Big Battle event out there,
Hmm.
and one of the big things that the Japanese counterparts there, I was working with, were letting me know is, don't, they want the American experience. Don't give them the Japanese experience. If you try to,
Yes.
if while I was on the mic, if I tried to speak to them in Japanese, I was told I'd get booed out of the building. They apparently at a WWE
Hmm.
event, they brought in a Japanese ring announcer, and she spoke in Japanese, and people lost their shit and were angry because they wanted the American experience to come in there and not be placated to. And I think
Hmm. Hmm.
if there's one city in the world that is unapologetically themselves, it is New York City.
Oh
Changes
yes.
for nobody.
Everywhere I've been, yes, everywhere I've been internationally, it's always been like that. Like I could travel for days and weeks, and I come back, I'm like, oh, don't ever
No,
change, never
no, no.
change.
Keep that energy alive. Um, let's go into something else you just mentioned, and I'm curious of what you feel you can and can't talk about. But the idea of in
Hmm.
2025, these other entities that fall under the Tokyo Bronx ACG
Hmm.
umbrella. Now, I don't think
Hmm.
I've said it yet, but ACG stands for Anime Comics and Games. We've been abbreviating. I wanted to make sure it was said out
Hmm.
loud. But what are these? What are these other
Yeah.
entities that you guys are working on to help? While you're dressed, while you've got the bird outfit on, will spread the wings of of Tokyo Bronx ACG.
Yeah. So definitely wanted to like sort of like in a way let people know that the ACG social mixers like they bring these cross-cultural collaborations and mixed so networking experience, but also let them know like ACG social mixer is a service as well. So we do on the profit end, but also in the partnership end and sponsor end, we do offer support for businesses and individuals who are looking to expand like through consultation, networking, marketing, promotions as well. And we have our own network of creatives and fans that in case they need to get the word out. We've helped very close. We've helped the Mount Vernon Public Library in Mount Vernon, New
Okay.
York, helped them to like last year we helped them to expand and getting the Bronx up there. And the way to do that, we help offer our services as well through marketing and promotion, word of mouth, because word of mouth is still up there. People believe it or not. Like you can do as much digital networking as you can. Like it's just something about maybe it's the Bronx or just New York, just people kind of skills, like just word of mouth. Like,
Oh
hey,
yes, but get it out
I
there.
got this cool event going on. I want you to go to it. It's so strong out there. So we offer those services under ACG Social Mixer. And the other pieces, they're still in work, but for one I can mention right now, because we said we definitely are on it, is Tokyo TVX Publishing. So it's a sister thing with C1 Comics, as I mentioned, is a publishing collective group. So we're also gonna do, but they're more with comics, more like Western, sorry, Eastern comics, but it's we're gonna be doing it TVX publishing through manga,
That's awesome.
animation style. So it's gonna be that. So it's gonna have a group of collectives that we're gathering together, of course, with the founder and who's on in the lead because he's a publisher and he has his own wacky, crazy anime ideas as well that need to be put out there. I always say it like, gotta put this out there. People need to see like all of this out there. So we're definitely gonna be working on that next year as well, along with some other ones. But once those get in place, we have our merch too. So of course there's TBX merch. So sometimes, like I wanna get tired of like carrying the load of boxes of merch and I'm like, hey, there's a digital store nowadays. Just go to our store, purchase our shirt, purchase our merch there. And so, and we just expand it from there and see how the other pieces fall into place.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So you guys are gonna start publishing manga and comics now as part of one of these offshoots.
Hopefully,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
hmm Yeah, definitely for indie artists because there's so many young people. Like we had someone come to our event and he was at the booth with us and he's a SVA alumni, School
Oh
of Visual
wow,
Arts
okay.
alumni, and it's the whole point of like, how do we, it's the next step, right? And a lot of them, the next step is to be published. The next step is to get their work out there. So PBX Publishing would offer that mentorship, that guidance with the decades of experience that they have on, TBX Publishing has under his belt with the founder and being able to offer them that experience. So I like to feel like Tokyo Bronx and Tokyo Bronx ACG, we always look after like just the new up and coming people, especially like you said, to spread their wings kind of piece, like let them do their thing. So we always initially always cater to that group as well, always initially first.
That's great. That's great. I mean, you've also worked with some pretty established people as well. I think one of whom, we've not talked about, but I've caught online a brief little interview you did with the one and only Mega Ran. Absolutely amazing
Yeah.
artist. I've gotten to meet
hmm
him a couple times myself
Yes.
through WWE, my work at Up Up Down Down. But like, what was how'd that come about, and what was that like when you work with him? Absolute sweetheart of a guy.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. Like, so I saw that he was gonna be in New York doing a tour, doing his tour with Shaldo and
Yep.
a couple of other artists as well. And I wanted to just let my community, my network of followers know about that piece. Like, if you're looking for some music, some vibes when it comes to especially anime, comic, and game world, and yeah, like I said, like ACG Social Mixer, we always love Tokyo Bronx. We always want to branch out to many different things. And so I saw he was doing that and I just graciously asked him humbly, like, hey, would you like to sit down for a quick interview with my show, my little Tokyo Bronx pop series, which is a little short and sweet interview. And he was gracious to say yes, and it was amazing just hearing his background and learning all about him. He's a Guinness World Record
Yeah.
holder and like, and his children's book and seeing him perform was even awesome. So yeah, he definitely brings such amazing vibes and I do hope like we could cross paths again. That was a great
Yeah,
experience.
it was amazing. It's amazing get for you to get to sit down and talk with him. As a guy's been touring all over the place with
hmm
this kind of stuff. What are
Yeah, and as former educators, it was
yeah,
interesting.
right.
So it was like, oh yes, we say we did our time, and now we're letting loose and being creative now.
Honestly, it feels good to do it in the latter half of life, doesn't it? Uh,
Yes.
um, what is let's before we look forward, let's go back the furthest we've gone back yet. Um, what
hmm
was Rosa's introduction to nerd culture? What was that first love, and
Oh.
how did that spiral into where we are today?
hmm Oh, definitely. First thing that comes to mind is my uncle every weekend coming to my house with my cousins and just bringing like the latest VHS anime. Some of them were not even for kids, but like for example, I always tell people my first experience with anime was Fist of the North Star. So if you know what I'm
Oh
talking about.
wow, yeah.
so,
How old were
so
you?
just I was in middle school, so maybe
Okay,
like 12. So it wasn't too bad, you know.
rough, but not the worst.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that was my first experience, and then every week you get, weekend he would come and just, bring like comics. I was a big X-Men Storm fan, so
hmm
I got like that vintage Storm. Well, now it's vintage, but I got the Jim Lee Storm poster of her wearing like an Amazoness bikini,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yes, I still have that. It's in my mom's house, but she's not giving it up, so I leave it there so it won't get damaged. So it's still over there. Yes,
Smart.
I still have that. And then gaming, I just grew up gaming like from Atari days, and then like as I got more into it, just I love the storytelling of gaming. So I was
Mm.
and still to this day, I'm a big JRPG fan, and all those things, and being able to like, especially as a female, growing up in the Bronx, it's rough interior, the rough exterior, but it's like
Yeah.
finding your group of nerds, which were out there. You have the nerdy group of kids, and sometimes even that is like, should I say, should I, and but it got to a point that like as we got older, it got more comfortable of knowing like, wait, there are some kids playing Dragon Ball Z or watching Dragon Ball Z, and so seeing that grow like the way it is now, like because back then it was like just one group of people would see that, but now it's gone so mainstream, it's like unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure. It was I mean, I think we all of us kind of older generation, we have our stories about, that time in 80s and 90s and stuff of it being, it wasn't cool. It had not hit in
Yeah.
in the same way. Did you, I again, I'm, across the country. We have our in like Oakland and stuff. We had our own issues with it
Hmm.
not being out there. How was it just both in the Bronx, but also being a young woman in the Bronx?
Hmm.
What was the like? Does it feel like it was for the most part something you needed to hide, or you couldn't talk about?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that for sure it was like because it was, back then it was just the way society was in that time, and
hmm
crime was high. It was and just more of like you just got to get out. The whole mindset was get your education and get out, right? That was
Yeah.
like everyone's mindset, especially your parents. Like, look, just get your education and get out of here. But it was like we're still kids, and we still got to find a group of friends, and like
Enjoy. You had to
wherever they
find what
are,
was
and
your
yeah,
fun.
and that's it. Yeah. So I was grateful to like be part of different programs and summer programs, and I found like those group of kids, and ended up realizing like video games was where we would go. Like they'll mostly all come to my house because growing up with a Puerto Rican mom, it was like if you're not here, I don't know, you're not going. I don't know where
Yeah,
you are. So
right.
she made sure all our friends were there. Like she's like, look, I don't mind like she was like, I don't want you going out there, but you could come. They all could come here. So
Right.
my house ended up
It
being
was
like
a
just a
it
hangout
was a safe
spot.
house, right? As long as
Yeah.
you're not going to get
So
into any trouble with her watching over you.
exactly, and then even them as well. So it was almost like the parents were grateful just to have their kids over there in our house, just watching anime and playing games, reading comics as well. And it was a safe space, and just like that, I think that experience made me realize like how much people need that. Not just safe spaces, but just spaces with their fans. They're people who love the same thing, who love anime, comics, and games as well. I mean, even though it's mainstream now, like there's still pieces, no, there's still little, communities out there. Because we did a panel in Fan Expo Philly last year,
hmm
and we were talking about like how to build your own social mixer network. How to build whatever your community is, and so many people came to us like just gracious for the panel, and we're like, yeah, like how do I start? Like how do I do something like this? And we were like, just start. That's it. Like just get a group of friends, meet up at a it's so much easier now, but like, meet
Yeah.
up at a bar or meet up at a friend's house, or now like, it's through Twitch and Discord. So it's expanded so much that these possibilities are endless. I think it just happened.
That I think that's great. Let's get into that a little bit because you know for the most part you're right. Just starting is the way to go. But I mean, there are
Mm-hmm.
trials and tribulations as you kind of learn the needs of your
Definitely.
tribe. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you guys have had a lot of successes with the work you've done so far. Um, I don't care about those right now. I want to know what are the failures. What were some of the mistakes you feel like you've made
Yes.
on the way that you've been able to I'd say you know that you've learned important lessons from in building this amazing community.
Oh, geez. I would definitely say while a lot of first failure is like putting more money in that you can than you'd have. I would say I always tell people this like don't put more money in than that you don't have, right? Like it's find ways to get it out there, like apply for grants, do fundraising, things like that. Because at the end of the day, you have to eat. You know, you have to take care of your family, whatever those needs are. You got to pay your rent.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that. Like don't get too invested in something that you don't know if the bubble's gonna pop or something. So it's just always being grounded. I think don't also burn yourself out as well. And that's something I'm learning along this way is take breaks, take steps back. It's just definitely after our next event next month, I'm gonna take some steps back and like just really focus on the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Another one definitely is be mindful of the partnerships you make. So like I mentioned, you know, there is still the taboo of partnering with people, having collaboratives and being very transparent so both sides know like what's being put on the table.
Okay.
Um, and there's no kind of miscommunication with that. And also being open to changes, you know, like we're this journey is like nothing set in stone. And it's working with people and also being open with yourself, like these changes are gonna happen. So don't stay stuck with like don't stay stuck like saying, I have to do this, I have to get it done this way or else it's a failure. You know, be open to those different transitions and those experiences.
I think that's great. There's a lot of thinking on your feet, especially I think when you're constantly
Mhm.
doing new and different things like you guys are doing. Um,
Mhm.
what is what do you say is like one of the most interesting doesn't feel like the best word to use here, but I'm going to use it anyway. What is the most interesting, the most different thing you guys have done so far? Or if that's too hard, what name something that really stands out to you as a thing you've put on? You know, you've done a couple of the mixers, you've done oddly, if you mentioned a couple car shows, what have been the
Mhm.
things that have really been like I never thought we would do this, but here we are.
Let's see. I think one thing I tell myself, I don't fake the funk. Like, if I know I can't do it, I get somebody that could do it. Like, for example, we helped our teammate Kage, who has his own collection agency, Kage Collective Agency.
Mm-hmm.
We helped support him in his fashion show that he did this past
It's
February. And
awesome.
I knew for me, like I wanted to be part of that in some way, shape, or form, but I knew like logistically that's not my realm, you know, and like that's not my niche of people. But I know like there's a fan base there. So I
Right.
wanted to try to support any way possible. So really definitely like that was interesting in an experience to like understand like when you don't have all the answers. It's you know sitting back and seeing how things work. You know, and learning. I think the main thing is same thing with the car shows. It's learning. I think with the car shows is another one as well. I could think of that. I don't know much about cars, but I know there's fans in here, there's geeks here that love. You know, they dress up their cars in Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon or
Yeah,
who knows what
there's one
else.
on my block here that's like wrapped in a Sonic thing that just it just parks on the street, and I'm
Yes.
always sitting there being like, where the hell who's this guy? I want to talk to them. They're obviously one of the complexes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think for me, I know like it's like lowering your ego and knowing like I don't know everything and I'm here to learn. You know, so let's partner together, like and see what I can learn from you and vice versa. So it's definitely a lowering your ego trip kind of experience.
Has that been hard? I know that would be hard for me.
Not really.
That's
I
good.
think
That's good.
I'm a learner by nature. You know, I love to learn. And I'm very open minded. I love to like learn new things and try new stuff and see where it goes. You know, even if it goes to hell, but at least like we're there together,
Yeah.
kind of experience.
Well, you talk about weird stuff and like things to get into. What is let's talk big picture. What are not so much what's on the horizon. We'll get into that towards the end. But what are the wish list items? What are the things that you'd love to get into that you guys, whether it's something you're passionate about or
Uh,
something you
mhm.
know the community would be, what's out there that you have yet to do that you really want to?
There's two things that I want to do, and hopefully the grants go through. See, but or the partnerships go well.
Right.
Uh,
We'll put this out there now.
one is a yes. So one is a cultural festival. So I've been wanting to partner with like community centers, schools. Schools are rough. I mean, I'm a former educator, so I know that is.
It's a
Partnering
landfill.
with schools and yeah, partnering with parks to just do a cross-cultural not film festival, cross-cultural festival.
Hmm.
So in Japan, they have something called bukatsu. So bukatsus are, if you've seen all the anime tropes, there's one episode that they do a cultural school festival. So all the clubs come together and they do this they do this they do this culture festival. So all the clubs should highlight themselves. So just coming from educator background and having ran clubs as well, ran anime clubs, I noticed that the anime clubs are lacking because the teachers don't know. They're like, okay, they assign me to run this club, and the kids, you know, they just sit there and just I don't know watch anime, which is fine. You know, that's what they want, but it's more of like, in the educator's perspective, there's always that admin piece that I think about. The admin comes to you like, oh, what more is being done in this club? What more can be done? And, you know, so that made me think of the bukatsus that happened in Japan and wanting to bring that experience, not just for myself, but in partnerships and bring it to school communities that have a way of like shining their culture, but with the influences of course, anime, comics, and games.
Hmm.
So that's like the big one I'm really trying to do. And that one I know it takes time and budget and all the, you know, work that has to go behind that and building a team. And also getting, I guess, community centers and schools on board with this kind of with this thing. And the second one, it's sort of aligned with that as well. It's bringing like a an exchange experience as well. So like I'm doing it personally next year with going to Japan, bring up that exchange experience. But I want to know like I'm trying to figure out a way and to bring it to young people, like bring that exchange because I knew somebody many years ago that was doing it out in California
Okay.
actually. She was bringing cross cultural exchange experiences to students in like urban, in urban neighborhoods and bringing them to like one or two students she had, and she would bring them out to Japan. So bringing that same idea to New York, and
Yeah.
letting them see what's over there and vice versa as well.
That's awesome. Imagine it's there's a bit of a
That's my educator
oh
hat
no,
kicking in,
totally,
that's like,
totally. But I think it's good. Like I've known schools that have had like foreign exchange programs where a student stays with the family, right? And like they get to be at the other school for a bit.
hmm
And there is something it's not just about, you know, at that point it's not even just about Japan knowing New York and vice versa. It's about the experience one has when they travel, when they leave the country for the first
hmm
time. I think makes
Yeah, you'd be surprised. So many students, so many young people. I could speak from experience, especially growing up in the Bronx.
mhm.
Some of us stay in the Bronx and never leave the Bronx. Some of us stay and just know like our social group, and I think it's giving them that experience. Not that they're leaving, but more of like, what do you could take that experience of going overseas and bringing it
Yeah,
back. And if you want, how do you mix that? How do you mix that? Especially New York, it's just a melting pot. How do you mix that into your neighborhood, into your experiences?
1,000%. I think, obviously money is a barrier for travel because travel can be expensive, but
Mm-hmm.
also sometimes you just need to go for the first time. Like sometimes, and I think
Mm-hmm.
this could be anything. This could be going to a club for the first time, or going
Mm-hmm.
skydiving. I'm throwing that out there randomly. I afraid of heights. I can never do it. But the idea that sometimes you need to do it once to know it actually is an option for you. Because sometimes you just look at it and be like, that's
Yes.
not for me. But the only thing that's stopping you is the activation energy of moving forward. And so by
Yes.
helping people do that, it tells them, yes, this is an option. It may be hard, may be expensive. It may have to prioritize, save up, or like find ways to fund. But you know,
Mm-hmm.
at least you are not your own barrier. And sometimes that's
Yes.
equally as important for people.
Sometimes that's it. Sometimes I think we as individuals, we just end up being our own barrier. And I think if we put that to the side and find ways to make the choice to take the chance, um, whatever powers that are out there, it'll make it happen. Of course, it's putting in the work. It's not easy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's putting in the work. But it's knowing like you did make that choice to take this next step for whatever purpose that is.
Totally. Um, I need to ask, could you bring up the culture fair? And I don't know, you describe this
Hmm.
thing, it sounds awfully close to a convention. And I do have to wonder, with all the conventions you guys find yourself in, has there ever been chat of the
Mhm.
Tokyo Bronx Con?
Oh, I will tell you, I tell everyone this straight off the bat. That's how it started, and that's where it's
Okay.
staying.
Okay.
Just, I'll be honest, I can't like it's I guess just working behind the scenes. I'll be transparent. That was my initial goal when it came to Tokyo Bronx ACG to do like a TBX con or ACG con
Yeah.
or something. But as time passed and behind the scenes and just so many cons end up popping up, it's like no offense to anyone doing conventions because I love what you do, the passion you have, but you do it and then you find out there's another convention. Like, wait, there's a convention for, I don't know, everything you could think of. It's insane. And it's like, but people go to it. That's the weird thing. And it just got to a point that I'm like, I transitioned the brand and I think I transitioned my mission and vision of like going past like it just being a 1 day con. Like, okay, you see us for this 1 day, you don't see us for a year from now and you forget about
Mm.
us. I wanted Tokyo Bronx ACG to be something that's in out there, that it's in households, it's in the stratosphere, whatever you want to call it. It's out there that people know, like, oh wait, I know this group. They do community work. They go to these events. They also help with these services. So it's an active thing that's always around. Well, conventions, I felt like it's just set it and forget it kind of thing. You go through it and then it's gone. And then I noticed, going back to economics, the budgets and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, like we also have to think about not only from those that organize it, we got to think about attendees as well. Like, how many cons can like attendees go to in the span of a year if so many conventions are popping up and they have to manage their funds and everything. They can't go to, and artists as well. So I thought about those things of like in the bigger picture. So it ended up just being, I think I'm better off like rather partnering and supporting people and taking a different approach when it came to like this whole environment ACG.
No, I mean, I think that makes sense. I think that's smart. And the truth is that you've been doing that. Like,
Hmm.
I made the joke, but like Kaiju Brooklyn, you guys were there. Anatomo, you guys were there. New York Comic Con, you guys were there. You guys are it's not. It doesn't feel like a con in New York City if you guys don't have your name attached to it. I know you guys have a lot going on, just between last time I asked you this question, you said you had a car show and you had the Kauai Festival. I believe
Hmm.
both those have happened, and it was only
Yes.
been maybe a week and a half or so. So
Yes.
let's continue on with this fun game I like to call "What's Tokyo Bronx ACG got coming up next?"
Where in the world is, I guess. I should
Yeah.
have worn Carmen San Diego.
That would have been fantastic,
I know.
honestly.
So our last event of the year, and I stick to that, just for my own sanity and for my kids, is we have Anime NJ Plus Plus. So that's a anime convention out in New Jersey.
Right.
It's in Hillsborough Heights. Hope I got that correct. It's at the Hilton there. And this is their second year. So they're going to be bringing lots of voice actors, if you're into that, lots of musical performances. I think the person is Lotus Juice. And same thing of
Okay.
like, get to meet other creatives, artists, panels as well. They're awesome. The person that organizes it, they're awesome. They're great. They're artists as well, so they know the grind of like, it's sort of like when you work in schools and you have a principal and it's like, well, were they a former teacher? They'll know the grind. So at this convention is run by someone that knows the grind of like conventions and and exhibiting as an artist. So definitely do appreciate supporting them, helping them grow this convention as well.
That's great. That's great. Um, so, I mean, I guess with all that, we're kind of, wrapping up here. I want to get one more question out before we do the usual
Hmm.
self-promotion stuff, and that is big JRPG fan. Give me some, from one to another. Give me some top ones. What are some of your favorites?
Oh man, first one to me is it's PlayStation 1 game called Xenogears. It came out
Oh
in
yes.
1998. It was like if you're into
Hmm.
like psychology, Nietzsche, if you're into like a whole
I,
psychological
I was gonna
trip,
say, yeah, that's
it's
a
plus
thinking person's
mechs.
RPG. That's
Yeah, I played it like 3 times to get the understanding, but it goes into Carl Jung, philosophy, psychology, plus mechs. So that's the thing. It's all that plus mechs. So if,
yes,
if you like
yes.
if you like that stuff, definitely get into it. That's my favorite one. Besides, like the ones that I grew up with, Final Fantasy 7. I think that's still amazing. Even the remake to this day, like I still haven't played the second
Hmm.
part on PS5 because I don't know if I want to spend $800 just for one game on a PS5. I'm
Too
holding off.
goddamn much. Too goddamn much.
Yeah,
I
so I'm
got you.
holding off on it, but I love it. I love Final Fantasy 7, Persona 4 and 5 are great as far as new ones. Uh, Zelda, of course, Legend of Zelda, can't deny that. That's
Yeah,
always a
yeah.
go-to. So those are the ones off the top of my head. I definitely, there's so many Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger, all the
Hmm.
old school
Hmm.
Square games. Like, yeah, those are still awesome to this day. Those are like replay value games. I could play them again and like still have that great fun experience.
Still get them. Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
I'm just impressed you pulled of all the top ones, Xenogears. What a get. I still think of I Am a Man of the Sea quite regularly.
Yeah,
So like
yeah, yeah. The music's good. The music's good. I love the
so
music.
good. I appreciate any over the top JRPG where you kill God at the end of the game. Um,
Oh yeah,
with that,
I know. Right? Like, wait, but
with
that last boss is what? God,
it's wild.
this is.
That's such a wild story, top to bottom.
I could
Rosa,
go into
well,
that forever.
yeah, we'll do a separate video. We'll do a separate video. We'll just talk Xenogears.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll get you on my best game of all time podcast. We'll do that as an episode. I'd love to have you on for that.
Oh, sounds fun.
Um, with that, Rosa, I'm gonna let you go. Before you do, where can people find you? Let's say someone, not to name names, but a talk show host with far too many ideas wants to pitch you on something big. What's the best way to reach out to you?
Yes, so you can follow us on our social medias. We're at Tokyo Bronx ACG, so Anime Comics Games, but it's just the ACG part. So at Tokyo Bronx ACG, you can use that same ad for Facebook, Instagram. You can use it for X, Twitter. Can I say Twitter? I don't know nowadays. You can
Yeah.
say Spotify. You can find us there as well. Formerly Anchor. YouTube. We have our YouTube videos is there as well, so you can find some of our own interviews there and our segments that we've done. And we have a website now too. So go to www.tokyobronx.com and there you can see all the highlights of who we are, meet the team, and then you can also find out more about ACG services. And if you wish to partake and hire us for your services or partner, you can definitely reach out to email me as well. It's all in the website. You can email me and Yeah, that's the gist of it, I believe. I think I touched on everything.
One No, I mean, I think there's a lot to touch on, so I understand if something that's missed here or there. You
Yeah.
guys, they do so much. Check them
Yes.
out if you are at, I mean, again, anything, NJ++, Kaiju
Yes.
Brooklyn, Anatomo, somebody's backyard. You see them, just say
Someone's
hi
block
and talk
party,
to them.
yes.
Honestly, any block party in the Bronx. I got to start
Yep.
going to more of those.
Yep.
It'd be absolute blast. Be sure to talk to them. As far as myself, it's Boss Monster Kaiju everywhere but Twitter, because Elon Musk can't do anything right. It's Boss Monster Kaiju. Character limit. I try to put a video up every Monday, of course. Best Game of All Time podcast. We got World's Greatest Gamer live second Friday of every month at OSNYC. Always so much to do. I pale in comparison to the amount of work Rosa and her team does on a regular basis. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Rosa, for being on. I will certainly be begging for you back in no short order. Until next time, stay cool, stay hip, stay heavy. Good night.